Hello everyone. Welcome to Super Coaching UPSC by Textbook. This is Venkatesh, your faculty for geography. So students, you might see that there is always around questions asked in the prelims from the point of view of the places in the news, right? So such things, these are regularly important. Whatever the places are news, be it as asked as part of the current affairs, be it as part of the say things like international relations, be it as part of the geography, such questions are regularly being asked. So while you are practicing about the current affairs, you need to be aware about what are the events happening. So one such way, they will be asking about geography places in news. So without any wastage of time, let's start about that. The mapping. For example, recently there's a country called Rwanda, Africa. If you see that African Rwanda, it is in news in the last few days, where it is using surface to air missiles in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, right? So you have the Rwanda in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, it is using the surface air missiles. So now it is an issue of political conflict. So they can ask you a question about which of the following countries share boundary with Rwanda. When you have seen such kind of questions have been seen in the past, when UPSC asked questions with respect to countries sharing the boundaries with Afghanistan, when there is mass migration of the people from the Afghanistan few years ago when Taliban took control of Afghanistan. Such kind of questions are regularly being asked. So with that perspective in mind, you are supposed to take these things into considerations. Just a minute. Let's see, is the audio video clear for all of you? Okay. Right. Now if you see it, so Rwanda, so we are not bothered about this as such. They may ask you is about the conflict. So you can see Rwanda capital, Kigali. By the way, some of you should be knowing about Kigali agreement. Kigali is associated with which, what agreement here? It is an agreement associated with what? Montreal Protocol, right? Kigali agreement associated with Montreal Protocol for ozone depleting substances. For ozone depleting substances. So that is there. Then you have the area. Then you need not remember about languages and all such kind of things unless the language becomes the conflict there. So whenever you study about certain things, don't learn just whatever the basic information about the country. Say there is information awarded about what is the highest point of that country, lowest point, rivers, all such kind of things. Unless and until they are mostly directly related with that country, it is not a necessary that we need to learn about that. So that you can ignore. Okay, then another thing they can ask you, M23 rebels. M23 rebels recently in news. That question they can ask. So with the Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo, that is the issue. Then you can see what are the countries which are having a boundary with Rwanda. Democratic Republic of Congo, the region of Uganda, Tanzania, as well as Burundi. So these are the places. They might ask you, because it's a conflict where Rwanda and Democratic Republic of Congo are having, that too on the eastern side here, maybe they can ask you about this lake. Lake Kivu is on the boundary of which two rivers, which was recently in news. So these are the places how you need to identify about certain things where a prospective question can be coming up, right? So what are they? Rwanda, the countries especially having a boundary, Democratic Republic of Congo. Then you can talk about the capital Kigali and you can talk about the lake Kivu. Then let's move forward to the next issue, places in news. Sierra Leone. Recently, Sierra Leone was in news when there was an unsuccessful coup attempt. What is that? Unsuccessful coup attempt. So it was in news since last one and a half month now. So when you have unsuccessful coup attempt, it is a link of political turmoil and economic crisis. So there is a capital here, country is Sierra Leone's capital, call it as Freetown, Freetown. So that you can see it, right? So Freetown, Sierra Leone. Now you see this country is having a boundary with respect to the Atlantic Ocean. So it is a coastal area. So that is an important point. They might ask you about match the following, about all these things put together rather than one. At least if you know one, maybe in the eliminations you will be able to get that. Of course, there we all know that there is a new template, but they can also ask you in the latest template as well. In the new template or also in the old template, we never know, right? Then one additional point, the discussion here about Sierra Leone is not about the boundaries, it is not about the conflict. So mostly the chances of asking the political boundaries of this is limited, right? It is not like approach, look at the approach, how are you learning? Everything is as you supposed to learn about the boundaries, not necessarily, right? So that is what the approach is, right? Then what questions they can ask you? One additional point which I have given is that members of the International Solar Alliance, be it the Sierra Leone, be it Rwanda, because they are part of the tropical region of the world, they are members of the International Solar Alliance. As you can see here, these are Sierra Leone is above equator. You can see this is Africa above equator, whereas Rwanda, you can see here it is Mule, it is below equator. So this is southern hemisphere, that is northern hemisphere. Such questions also can be asked sometimes, right? Then see, these are all the chances of asking maybe as part of the match the following, not going into deeper, definitely not, right? Then this can be a very conflictory thing. They can ask you about so many things. The Rafa border, you can, the Rafa issue, the Rafa region. So it's a region where we have recently with respect to the conflict with respect to the Israel and the Palestinian, the Hamas war and all such kind of things. So Rafah passage becomes important for the people to travel. So they'll ask you. It's the southernmost point of the exit from the Gaza and the borders Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. Now you all know that you have Gaza, here you have Egypt, here you have Israel, here towards the Red Sea we have the Sinai Peninsula. So Sinai Peninsula is towards the Red Sea. This becomes important, right? So Egypt, Sinai Peninsula, it is part of the Red Sea region, and where you have countries like Israel, Egypt, Jordan are having a boundary with the Sinai Peninsula. So Rafah border recently in news is Rafah passage is associated with what? They might give you options like melting ice, all such kind of things. It is about the Sinai Peninsula, right? Then there are only two other border crossings from and into the Gaza Strip. As you move into the Gaza Strip, two other border crossings you have is the Erez, a crossing into Israel into northern Gaza, which for people, and Keren Shalom, a solely commercial goods junction with Israel in southern Gaza. Both are shut. So that's where Rafah is becoming very, very important. As you can see, this is the Gaza Strip, this is the Israel. As part of the Gaza Strip, this is the Rafah crossing, you can have it here, right? And the Keren Shalom goods here, and this is the Erez crossing in the north, right? These are all the things. So at least remember one, Rafah crossing mapping becomes important because of the humanitarian conflict which is in news. Ultimately, what is the perspective of you as a policy maker to learn? It's about to understand the conflicts, resolve them, learn out of them, right? That is why these kind of things, are you aware? They'll be asking about the political boundaries. There are so many satellite images of Rafah where they have seen about 2023 with 2024 showing about the people who are moving as well, right? So this is one such point, Rafah thing, Gaza Strip. Now Mediterranean Sea, with this countries having a boundary with Mediterranean Sea, that becomes important because Gaza Strip part of this, people can migrate, then can they travel, they can ask you questions about that. The Sinai Peninsula question can be asked, that is another important thing, right? Okay, so then move forward. So let us see one more thing about the Sinai Peninsula, right? Okay, insert online pictures. So if you talk about the Sinai Peninsula, let me show you that as well. Okay. You can see here Israel, Israel, you can see the Gulf of Aqaba. So these points becomes very, very important. You can see this is Gulf of Aqaba with Saudi Arabia. You can see this, the Gulf of Suez. This is the Sinai Peninsula through which you have the Red Sea and the Suez Canal port which goes. So this is the Suez Canal port which will be the Suez route with the Red Sea, and this is the Sinai Peninsula. So it borders the Red Sea, the Gulf of Aqaba, and then the Mediterranean Sea, having a border with Israel with Sinai Peninsula, and this is where you find the Gaza Strip. So this becomes also important. Learn about the mapping of Sinai Peninsula. Right. Then as you move forward, these are the basic things. All about mappings here, it's all about revisions, repetitions. Right. Then come back to certain points in India. I've seen one more point here, Chushul Valley. It was recently in news with respect to the Chinese intrusions into India, the Chinese conflict with the local people there. It was in news. So Chushul Valley becomes very, very important. As you can see here, Chushul Valley, where it is located, it is part of the Ladakh region, Ladakh region, in the Ladakh region, having a conflict with China. If you remember the 1962 war, this place was very prominent. It is having a very, very important strategic point, because if you connect the Chushul Valley, if you have the connection of the Chushul Valley will be somewhere around here, right? So here, so as you can see here, Chushul Valley and all, after the Pangongso Lake, if you see this Chushul Valley, this is regarded, I can say that this can be as a point of controlling the accessibility of the entire Leh region. So during the 1962 war, China has controlled Chushul Valley, the Rezangla. It was a very, very famous war has been fought from India. One of the successful story of 1962, or I wouldn't say successful as such in the sense of actual war, but in terms of the fight shown by our soldiers, definitely it is a very much known for that. The Rezangla, Chushul Valley, all these places are very much in news. So you need to understand where are they located, which country we are having a conflict with. And in the present era, it is an important strategic point where all the military goods, all the military transportation for India can be happening. So it's a strategic point for India. That is why China is trying to have a conflict with that region. That's what you can say so. And also you can see that when there was a few years ago, you might all have heard about this Galwan Valley conflict with China, where during the Corona time, the soldiers the soldiers had fought with each other, Galwan Valley. So during the Galwan Valley conflict itself, we have seen the Chushul Valley was also in news, Pangongso Lake was in news, all such things. And India is constructing so much amount of road, Daulata Beg Oldie Road connecting this region, the Depsang Plains which are part of this region, all such questions can be asked. So Chushul Valley, Leh region, strategically important point for our defense, issue with respect to India and China. Right. I hope you all are following this kind of things, all of you. Then another important thing which was in news, the Murmansk region, part of the Barents Sea, Murmansk, part of the Barents Sea. Now, it might be the accessibility of the Arctic Ocean for Russia, accessibility of Arctic Ocean for Russia, Murmansk here, but the significance of this is for India in terms of the oil which we are exploring from these regions. So the gateway of Murmansk, and from it the oil explorations of the wider continental shelf of the Barents Sea wider continental shelf, and the oil which you get out of this to India, it is being transported to via the northern sea route. Now, if you see this region, the things is the continental shelf is very, very wide. So, what is the significance here? Continental shelf is very, very wide, almost around 1500 kilometers. With that wide 1500 kilometers, it is a crucial center for oil reserves, the fossil fuels, especially in the context of melting ice. So, in the context of melting ice, this becomes very, very important. So, these ports becomes very important. Murmansk is an important port, parts of the Barents Sea, right? Then, as you can see here, as part of this, from the Murmansk region, as part of the new sea route, northern sea route, via the Bering Strait, there is so much connectivity to India as well, where we are trying to utilize it for our oil resources. Last year, almost 3 to 4 months, we have significantly utilized the route for our oil resources. So that's where this becomes very, very important. With this thing into news, I have created an MCQ. Kindly answer this in the and put it in the comment section, all of you. Check it in the question, read it carefully. Let me take you a certain time frame, maybe around 40 seconds to 1 minute. Read it. 40 seconds to 1 minute. Yeah. Now, if you see, mapping the point, Murmansk is part of the Barents Sea. That's what the question is. St. Petersburg, Baltic Sea, Rostov, Japan Sea, Vladivostok, Black Sea. Which of the following are correctly matched? Just now we have seen Murmansk part of Barents Sea, right? So definitely it is right. St. Petersburg part of the Baltic Sea. You can see St. Petersburg here. This is the Baltic Ocean, one of the region where you have lesser amount of salinity, Baltic Sea, right? Then Rostov was part of the Japan Sea. No, Rostov is part of the Black Sea. Japan Sea is part of the Vladivostok. So 3 and 4 are wrong. 1 and 2 are right. The correct answer is A. This is a very important one. You can see this. St. Petersburg, part of the Baltic Sea. Murmansk, part of the Barents Sea. Rostov, part of the Black Sea. And as the Vladivostok, part of the Sea of Japan. So this becomes a very important mapping point for you. Then another one, recently you have seen Gupteshwar forest. It was in news. Gupteshwar forest, located in the state of Odisha, has been recently declared as the Biodiversity Heritage Site. Biodiversity Heritage Site. So that's where this becomes important. So Gupteshwar forest, Biodiversity Heritage Site, Odisha. Notable species is excuse me, mugger crocodile. Mugger crocodile. You have around Kangar Valley rock gecko, sacred grove bush frog, whatever. But it's mostly about the mugger crocodile that becomes important biodiversity here. And it is known for a variety of things. 28 species of mammals, birds, species of amphibians, reptiles, and that's the reason why it is given as the biodiversity heritage site. Gupteshwar forest. Then moving forward to the next point, there is another humanitarian conflict happening across the world. The Nagorno-Karabakh region, the Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict. It was in news since so many days now, right? Now, if you see this, Lachin corridor is one such corridor which becomes very, very important. The Lachin corridor. So Lachin corridor is a mountain road that links Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh, and it is in you can see here, This is the Nagorno-Karabakh region. This is the Azerbaijan, Armenia, and the countries having a boundary with Azerbaijan, countries having a boundary with Armenia. That question becomes really important. And Lachin Corridor is the one which is a mountain road that links Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh. So this is a very much frequently in news. Such questions can be asked. Hope you all have understood this point now, all of you, right? So these points, if you want the mapping and the pictures of these things, you can get into the Telegram channel. You can get into my Telegram channel. Any doubts, whatever you have, this is the place for you to have and interact with me. And that's it for today. We'll come back with a new topic. The previous year questions analysis, which we do every Friday. We'll come back with that tomorrow. Until then, have a good time, all of you. Have a safe time. Read well. Happy learnings. Thank you.